the computer.
Okay, now I'm gonna.
Okay, it's just loading.
Yikes.
Just click continue. So
Actually, that will go on her.
I don't know.
just keep continuing, and if it
I
doesn't
think it's
work,
gonna go on your personal Facebook page is what,
could,
Yeah,
and not the town's.
so you can go back.
I don't know what I'm doing.
I don't pay attention, so I don't know what you're doing either.
yeah, I've never looked at how, what she did.
I guess we should be more observant.
I didn't have to do that.
Did Lizzie not
No.
leave you any?
She'll have to make you a cheat sheet.
Oh, now I'm
We have
out of
third
here
degree,
altogether.
all set,
Oh,
and that,
geez.
What works in my house.
Where is Lizzie? Can we?
Here we
Contact
go.
her?
Just click on it. There.
All right, we'll just start the meeting. I don't know if it's on Zoom or not.
Okay. I'll call this Town of Vinalhaven Board of Selectmen's meeting to order for Tuesday, May 6th, 2025. Roll call, Tom Anthony, Lad Olson, Don Young, Leslie Dyer, myself, and Marjorie Stratton. Number 2, we didn't have any additions to the agenda, Marjorie, did we? I
I
know,
just had some correspondence from Maine Coast Heritage Trust.
okay, that's all
That's
right.
all, yeah.
We do have one. Millie is sick, so we will not be doing public works or parking tickets tonight. So I'll add that.
But
No,
I don't know how to do
Okay.
it. So anyway, number 2, I move that we approve the agenda.
so moved.
second,
All in favor? Number 3, minutes. Approve the minutes from the April 30th, 2025 meeting.
So moved.
second,
All in favor? Number 4, approve and sign treasurer's warrants, number 45.
So moved.
second,
All in favor? Number 5, communications, Marjorie.
Yeah, I'm just trying to take some notes. I received a check for $5,000 and a note from Maine Coast Heritage Trust. This is their payment in lieu of taxes for the properties that they own out here. I just wanted to note that.
How much is it?
$5,000.
Thanks. Thanks.
And I also, every Monday, I just wanted to make a note of the fact that every Monday I do get a report from Bruce Groening. He has the mowing contract for the cemeteries. He's very focused this year because of course, last year there was a bit of criticism because we weren't really ready for Memorial Day. So he's extremely focused, and if he needs to, he'll, get some extra people on board to make sure everything's great for this Memorial Day. But I think it's nice that he gives me a report every Monday about what he did that week and what he's planning on doing the week going forward.
Thanks.
Is that it?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Number 6, speakers from the floor, Mrs. Kane.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Handout, this is, oh, I guess here.
You can
do
sit.
this.
You can pass 'em
You can pass them around like. This is,
just two of the pages of the budget insert. I'm guessing, how long you've been here, you've seen it before, but, our office prints a lovely budget document that has all the detail, 15 pages or so worth of detail for our budget meeting, that we'll have this coming Thursday. And then my understanding is they place them around town as well, so that folks have access to that. So, what I thought, for you folks that I would do, which I've traditionally done with select boards, is give you a quick big picture and then give you a few details in behind what constitutes some of the major changes. So I know you're busy and there's always lots on your agenda, so I will not go through 282 individual lines of the budget for you. I'm sure, much to your happiness, but just to highlight a few things and then answer any questions that you have. First of all, it's been a great year. There's been a lot of growth. You have amazing staff and a tremendous student body. I just came back from chaperoning a trip with the 9th and 10th graders, a Widows Island Fun trip to Portland. I know the juniors and seniors were to go back at the same time. And I can say your students represented Vinalhaven very well. They were just fabulous. Really great students. So it's a joy to work with them, a pleasure to be here. So looking forward to next year, especially now that I know more of the names and the faces and the whatnot. So that will be exciting. We are currently hiring for a discovery room teacher and a resource room, the elementary level teacher. We have applicants for both those positions. We also are hiring for a special ed director position, which we have applicants for. And the principal who's been here for a year, I'm sure you may have heard, Karen McKechnie has moved on. She's been hired as the superintendent for Deer Isle, which is her hometown. She was there for many, many years before. She did a lot of work down here on the Mid-Coast region. So I think that she's, while she's sad to be leaving behind our wonderful students and staff, she's happy that her traveling days are over because she's been on the road this is her 3rd year. So I think she's looking forward to spending, being able to actually see her husband more than maybe just Saturday and Saturday night. But again, we have applicants for all those positions. So we're excited about that. Very fortunate. And we're just going to all keep our fingers crossed because, as you know, not just here with the isolation, everywhere in education right now, it can be very challenging to fill positions, especially special education positions. So looking forward to getting those filled so that we have a full roster again next year. If we look at the big picture a little bit, and I just highlighted a few places because there's so much information on here, which I know we put for all of those details, but essentially our general fund budget increase this year on the expenditure side is 9.59%. So that 457,000. However, that's not what you will see for a local increase. We've been very fortunate on the revenue side, as you can see. So lunch sales, we're projecting those will go down a little bit next year, of course, with the increase in food. But our state subsidy went up pretty dramatically this year. We got an additional $180,000+ in state subsidy. Some of that is the change in the governor's budget, and some other causes of that are some changes we made in the district office with Tina and Hillary, and some reporting and the way we're doing that reporting. And so I'm very appreciative to the time they took over the summer to help make some of those adjustments. So that's all good news. And then additionally, we'll use $60,000 from the capital reserve fund. We'll transfer that funding to offset some projects that had been planned at school. As you know, we have HVAC needs. Your boilers are the original ones from the school. And you're very fortunate to have someone like Al here working in the school who knows all those systems well. So those are planned things, but again, prioritizing, replacing things that we've had breakdowns with more recently. And then we are projecting to use more fund balance this year. It's been a little bit of a challenge because we haven't had an audit through no fault of the main office here. When I started in July, they had already worked on preparing audit materials, but we literally got the audit back last night. And it's 100+ pages. I've been able to skim through the essentials. I haven't been able to read the entire thing. By and large, it's a very good audit. They had a couple suggestions, as they generally do, but there were no findings per se. But it looks like our estimates of what we thought we could do with fund balance were right on. We are going to use a little more fund balance than we did last year. And again, I wasn't here, but from what I can see, that's just simply from you had some positions you didn't weren't able to fill and some things like that, as typically can happen. So by having that additional funding from EPS and applying a little more fund balance for 1 year, down in 3, that ends up bringing your local percentage increase to 4.42%. Now, of course, no increase or 1 or 2% is certainly better than 4%. But that 188,000 is the result of lots and lots of time spent by the board thinking about what their long-term goals are, what are the needs of the school, and I'm impressed with their dedication to maintaining things that the school needs for the student body, and also trying to grow in areas that we clearly have a deficit. And so if you flip to the second page, what are some of those big picture, some of those changes that impact that? And I'll just highlight a few of these. I won't go through every single thing. But essentially in regular instruction, one of the biggest changes we have is this year, we have a new collective bargaining agreement that we are nearly finished negotiating with the Teachers Association. And one of our goals was to make sure, especially with the teacher shortages, that we remain competitive, and that folks want to come to Vinalhaven just as much as they want to go teach in Camden, and we want to be able to attract the best candidates that there are out there. And so we have the changes from those from that new contract in place, which impacts salary and benefits. And additionally, there's funding in there. We had some funding in there for the shop class, as I'm sure you're aware. That used to be funded in part through Midcoast School of Technology. We had a retirement last year, and half of the funding came from there. So we've been able to do some contracted services this year, and in partnership with PI have revived that program in the second half of the year. It's very well received. The board is committed to making sure that we have funds in there to continue being able to do projects for both middle and high school students, especially where at the technical center, students can't go until generally they're sophomores and juniors. But we have a lot of middle level students who it's beneficial to keep them engaged with hands-on activities, as you can imagine, in the shop. And so that's been great. So there are funds in there to make sure that we support that. And those are most of the changes that you see in the increase in regular instruction. Right underneath that, special education instruction, again, we need to ensure that all our students are receiving the supports that we need. For next year, we have some out-of-district placement needs that are things that we cannot fulfill here. That's very common on the mainland. There's some availability throughout the state of 10 or 11 programs that serve the needs of students that can't necessarily be served in your main building. They just need more than what we're able to provide with one resource room or special services teacher. And so many times you do end up with an out-of-district placement. So in this case, we have that in the budget, and that will be a short term. That's not a 1 year. It's not like we're going to fix the roof this year and that cost is going to go away. That's going to be a long-term change that we have to the budget for special education needs. Under student and staff support, continuing our work to make sure that we can enhance our curriculum and our academic offerings. One thing we've done this year is had some contracted services rather than hiring positions, hiring a curriculum coordinator or hiring a literacy specialist. The principal has looked with your staff at what the needs are, and we've contracted folks who have expertise in that area and can come out for maybe, 5 of the professional development days and then some other days in between, support staff, help them as they're actually implementing new practices. We've worked a lot on literacy this year, and so the board has increased the funding in there to support doing not just the literacy work at the elementary level, but really some curriculum work across all from pre-K to 12, which is badly needed. This is one thing I've discovered, having done curriculum work myself for 10 years. That's something that is really a challenge here due to your isolation. It's really hard to send teachers even to a workshop, whereas on the mainland, maybe they just take a day off and they get a sub, they plan for one sub. Even if it's driving from Bangor to Augusta, they do their 1-day training with their colleagues and they get right back. Yes, some of that you can do through Zoom, but as I'm sure you've experienced, it's not the same as being there and working hands-on with your colleagues. Here, that's a minimum of 2 days. By the time, they've got to leave the night before. And if a workshop goes until 4 or 4:30, they're not getting back out here the next day. So you end up with pretty significant impacts. You have, multiple days of substitutes, and not everybody can just leave their families for 2 nights. So it is more cost efficient for us to bring in somebody who is certified and who is an expert in areas and contract them to come in and work here for 10 or 15 days with us. So that's been successful this year. If you see any elementary teachers, ask them about the literacy work they've been doing this spring, and I'm sure you'll hear some rave reviews from them. We have some efficiency improvements that are here, as you know, or you may not have heard, but Brian Fieser resigned as the assistant principal, and he was going to stay through the end of the year. I think he picked up a job starting, which probably is already underway. So Friday was his last day. So we did a lot of big staff celebration. But in looking at that, this year they had tried something different with the administrative structure. I'm sure Monty Selby was filling the principal/superintendent role. Brian was doing the assistant principal. They worked with staff last year to try to design a different, try something out, different way. With Brian's departure, it was decided not to fill the assistant principal position. And I agree and concur with that. You have 140 students. You have a pretty great student body. In my opinion, and the opinion of many others, you do not need an assistant principal and a principal. I am a superintendent 2 days a week. There are not many weeks that have been 2-day weeks. Most of the time I'm here 3 or 4 days, and I've just done that. I was contracted 2 days a week. I'm here as much as they need me to be. But for next year, the board has changed that to be 3 days a week. So we'll have a principal, 3 days a week, superintendent. Those changes are in the central office. Let's see. And then the other, really the only other biggest change is in food service, and essentially in the past, you've had 2 positions budgeted. You have 3 food service staff members, and for next year, all 3 of them are in your budget so that we can maintain that the way it's been done before. So although you have that expenditure side increase of 9.58%, your local share increases 4.2%. So that is what I have for you. Questions that you have.
What was the audit that was just completed, the 2024?
Yes. My experience has been typically the Department of Ed requires us to have, districts are supposed to have those by the end of December. And most years, many school districts have to file an extension. And I'm used to having them in February, March. I'm not sure exactly what's been going on this year, but I'm glad it's in because we did just get the letter that if we don't have it to them by the end of May, they're going to start withholding subsidy. So it's good that it's in. I'm not sure if the firm just has, lots of districts, or it wasn't any particular holdup with ours in general, as far as we know. And again, we were ready to go early on in the year. I know sometimes districts, if you don't get that in until, if you're not ready till later, that can pull things up. It certainly is challenging. I mean, although, you know, we have records of, you know, so we have a pretty good idea of our fund balance. But especially for me as a superintendent walking in new to a district where I wasn't here last year, I would like a audited fund balance before I commit what we're going to, you know, be using.
Yes, certainly.
There was an increase in your special education revenue? Is that what you said? We don't get any regular subsidy, right?
No, in our, the increase in the revenue was probably what you were thinking of is the, our state subsidy from the ED 279.
Where is that on here?
It is, under revenues on that front page, between 1 and 2, subsidy from EPS funding. Last year you had 307, 112, and next year you're gonna have 494, 485.
But that's a special education
It's
subsidy.
not actually special education, so you may have seen,
That's what it says. Revenue, special education allocation.
You show me where you're looking, I'm not looking at the right.
Revenue.
Oh, I see you're down here. So.
We don't,
yes,
I don't think
used
we
to-
get any regular subsidy, do we?
We don't, and actually, I don't want to say it's an error, it's not an error per se, but some districts, pull, the actual data from the ED 279, which is 6 pages of data, essentially, that tells you for every single expenditure that you have, what percent of that is the state funding? And you put all of that together and that tells you your total amount that you're gonna get the following year. So you could go through those 6 pages and see, you know, you're gonna get $5,000 more here because of a change in transportation costs or a change in the number of teachers you have that have master's degree and things like that. So I think that's the way that they have maybe reported that here in the past. I don't typically see that just because, I mean, in the end, it doesn't really matter what it is, you're right. We don't really get revenue for special education per se. It's all of the data that we report all together that makes a determination of what your portion of the state funding is going to be.
I mean, I noticed that the cost per pupil is roughly 35,000 apiece. How does that compare to the rest of the state? That seems awfully high.
Your cost per pupil is higher, I would say. Some of that is your special education costs. You do have certain students in what's called a discovery, we call it discovery program here, but you have an additional special ed program here due to need that not all districts have. And then some districts just place students out of district, or they have a cooperative agreement and they have a regional program. And you just don't have access to that here. So that definitely does drive up some of your costs for sure.
So we have more special needs here than normal.
I don't know if I would say the normal, but you do have a fairly high percentage of special ed identified students, yes.
50%, something like
A
that.
little less than that, about between 40 and 42%.
How many kids in high school here?
There are 35 students in the high school this year. And you get these trends, and you can see that in our data very clearly, like, you may know the pre-K program this year, we had to split it in 2, and normally that's been a full day program, and we weren't able to do that. The group is so big that we've had to split that into 2 different groups. It doesn't look like right now we'll have to do that, but you can see that going up through the grades. You have bigger grades and then you have smaller grades, so.
Yeah, but we always used to start, I think my class started with 20 odd. We ended up with 11 graduating.
Okay, well, I was the only graduate of my 8th grade class, so I'm used to really little tiny small stuff, and that's not fun either. So, I mean, 35 is a little smaller than of course I would like, you know, because when you get those really tiny grade levels, as you know, going through together, and they're together for 13 years, really, from K 12, 14 years with pre-K. They're like a family, and it's a larger class, there's just a little more diversity, and so, you know, you definitely have some of those challenges, but they're a great group. And for athletics, that would be another reason why, you know, the more students we have, the better, so that you can make sure you can fill out a roster and have those teams. You do have a fairly vigorous homeschool group here on the island. I'm not sure how many of those, I don't have the age breakout of all of those students. I'm not sure how many of those students are high school age. But that is a trend we saw on the mainland as well. After COVID, we had students that withdrew during COVID to homeschooling, and a large percentage of those students did not return to traditional public school.
Makes sense.
Unfortunately, yeah, so. But just like with the charter schools, you know, there's something for everyone, and we have that range here too. We have homeschool students, we have students where what we offer at Vinalhaven School is a great fit. We have students who are on, they're not homeschool students, but they're doing their instruction at home, and we have students who attend a charter school. So you have a whole range, and you know, in my opinion, the goal is always to meet the students where they're at, and what's it gonna take to make sure that they get across that stage and get a diploma. And preferably on time, you know, finishing as a 12th grade student. But if not, we also have students on our account that maybe didn't finish and needed a class or two, and we make sure to support them either through the school locally or through the adult education programming, if possible. So even if they graduate in a 5th year or a 6th year, the goal is we want to get them across that stage and get them a diploma.
How many of the kids are involved with the trade school?
Half of the high school. I think there are 15. Yes, I think there are 15 students, and some of those, and they go every other day, and they don't all go on the same day. So they're sort of split, depends on what day the program is. And so.
That's good.
It's great, actually, and I've been able to tour the school. I'm familiar with Director Bobby Deachin. I used to work with him in a former district when I was a director of a technical center in Hancock County. And it's a great program for students. I mean, not every student is gonna go to college. Not every student needs to go to college. Some of them want to go to technical school. Some of them want to go right into the world of work. Some of them have to go to college. If you want to be a doctor, you want to be a teacher, you know? So what is it that they need to help support them in meeting those goals? And that our tech centers play a huge role, and it impresses me, the dedication of those kids to get on a ferry every morning at 7 and go over there and then come back. When you think about how that impacts the sports schedule, because many of them play sports, they've got to be back, things of that nature. It's a pretty big commitment for 15, 16, 17-year-old, right?
Yes,
But what a beautiful school.
my daughter did the CNA program there.
Excellent. That's
And
great. It
played
comes
all
out with a
sports.
certificate to be able to go right in.
Yeah, she's a CNA.
Perfect. And a lot of those kids then are employed, and their employer will help pay for them to work their way towards an RN if they so choose, and so. It's a good things there.
Any other questions?
I appreciate you making time to have me. Thank you very much. Try to
Thank
keep it
you.
concise. Like I
No,
said.
it's great. Thank you,
Thank you.
Katrina.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
So we meet on Thursday to our regular budget meeting, as is typical here from what I've heard, which is like many small districts, not always necessarily super attended, you know, it's probably not
Take a
50
look
or 100
around.
people, right? And probably- Yeah, I'm used to that in my small districts, but then we still have our referendum vote, you know, again, as many districts have. Some have kept that, some have eliminated that, and you have that here, and so
Yeah,
we'll do that and then go from there.
keep our
So,
fingers
but again,
crossed.
yeah, thank you very much for your time. Nice to meet you
Thanks,
all.
nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Bye now. Number 7, committee and departmental reports and appointments. Marjorie, you have an update on the downtown project?
Yeah, we had the pre-bid meeting for the 2 things that have gone out to bid, the drainage upgrades project, that's the one that's funded by USDA, and the water district building, that's phase 2 NBRC funding. We had at the pre-bid meeting, we had Jake Barber and Dan Ford. I don't know if you remember, Dan Ford was the company that did the transfer station.
Mhm.
And then Eastwood Contractors that I'm not familiar with. Oh, that was for the drainage upgrades. And then for the building, it was Jake Barber again, Dan Ford, and Peter Cadella. So this Wednesday, we're hoping to get the other part of the EDA project out to bid, the road work and the sidewalks, and the boat ramps. We're certainly on an ongoing basis, still working on all of the permitting. There was a delay on the Army Corps of Engineers for the boat ramps, but we're working diligently to get all of that in place so that we can go out to bid on Wednesday for those other two projects. Does anybody have any questions about anything else going
Do we
on?
have any updates on the funding, on funds being released by the government?
We don't have any indication that we're losing any funding. Is that your question or?
Yeah, well, I know there was freeze and then there was some that were moved along. And the last I knew, we were still in the frozen situation.
We didn't have any
That-
freezing,
We didn't?
No,
no.
and it's a
Well,
reimbursement.
we had applied for a grant unrelated to the downtown
Yeah.
project. Is that what the one, it was through FEMA?
Hmm.
But we didn't actively do anything. We didn't move forward with the grant activities because we were a little worried. And then lo and behold, they did pull that one back. But I mean, we didn't start doing anything. So, but that was entirely different. That was not related to the downtown project at all. I think that's the one that you're talking about, or?
Well, I know a lot of the funds were approved, but there was a question on whether there would be an obstruction on the funds released.
Well, it took a while for the EDA to approve the de-scoping.
Mhm.
And did we ever hear back? I mean, they said to move ahead, but I don't know if they've actually.
We haven't received
Received
anything
the-
this week yet.
Right, okay. That might be what Don's
Yeah,
thinking
that's what I'm
about.
concerned about, right?
Yeah, but I mean, no, the money is there.
We're
It's just-
already receiving money from the NBRC grant, the Northern Borders.
Good.
I remember Gabe saying that if the contracts are signed, that if they were good to go.
I mean, I haven't gotten any indication, or we haven't gotten any indication that funds are going to be withheld. So. For the grants that we have.
Yeah.
And I certainly would let you know if I had any indication or was worried about it.
Well, it's good progress. Three
I
bids,
hope so.
and that's good news.
Yes.
That's all I have, or unless there are more questions.
Okay, we will move on to 8, old business. Proposed amendments to the personnel policy. Oops,
Did you all have a chance to go through this?
yes, I
had some
did.
questions on it.
Mhm.
When was the decision made to recommend the shorter time frame on the vacation weeks?
You mean the longer times, or?
No,
Oh,
no,
right.
I saw that like for 4 weeks, we're down to 12 weeks, 12 years rather of service versus 20.
What was it on the vacation?
Yes.
Where was that? I had a couple pages. Oh, here it is. Page 8. Is that what you're talking about, Don?
Right. I don't
So
have
the
it with-
5 days is quite similar.
I don't have it
Oops,
either.
I'm sorry.
I don't have a copy of it in front of me to.
Okay, I brought my copy that it was a handout a few meetings ago.
Really? I don't remember that.
Yeah, remember we asked that you give it a look and if you had questions. I'm sorry, I only brought, do you have?
Okay, I can look all over it.
I brought mine. So,
Where do you want to? Yeah,
On page 8 is the vacation. So these are suggested amendments. So instead of waiting 5 years for people to get 2 weeks, it's 3 years.
Hmm.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I
Is that
don't
what
have a problem with that one, but I did question whether we should go from 20 down to 12 on the, basically for the 4
So it'd be
weeks.
20 days after 12 years of service.
Yeah, that seems awfully generous.
I think 20 years is a long time to
No, I
wait.
think.
So do
20
I.
days.
Yeah,
20 years is a long time.
yeah.
No, 20 days after working 12 years.
Right, but
But
that's
it's
crossed,
Prior to
20
this, it was
is
20
crossed out.
years.
Right. It's 20
Oh, I'm
days
so,
after
okay,
20 years.
all right.
But 20 years is a
15
long
seems
time.
like a more reasonable number to me than 12 does.
You get 15 after 5 years.
But
Well, what's the
15
little box on the
years to
right
get
says
to-
20 days after 15 years,
This says it's just another suggestion of how it could.
how it could be done?
Mhm.
I just thought that that was fair, 20 years, to get 4 weeks is a lot. But that was not uncommon when I was working, but now it's not, but I think that 15 would be more applicable than 12 would be, and I didn't even really pay much attention to the 3 weeks.
Do you have a suggestion or anybody have a,
I would suggest 15 years for getting 4 weeks vacation.
So you go 5 years for 15 days and then you work another 10 years before you get 20 days?
Or maybe we should make it longer on the other as well. I just think that was too much of a change.
Well, I
That-
think you
that other
also have to look at how, you attract new employees.
Mhm.
I would look at it that way as well.
You're giving away the
They
store.
Also extended the time for 2 weeks vacation. Oh, no, you dropped that down to 3 years, don't you?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that one. That's,
The little red box off to the side seems like a happy medium to me.
I don't know. I just think of,
I mean, is this review done to
This
get
is-
us more competitive with other municipalities of our size, or?
Not necessarily. I
is,
don't know. I'm not
is-
trying to compete with.
No, just, you know.
is the red line your recommendation? And then this is just another suggestion?
I would go with the
It's
red
the
box.
10 days-
The red box is the way
Excuse
to
me,
go.
Dawn, I'm speaking. Is the 10 days per year after 3, is that, are these your recommendations here, Marjorie? And then this is just another suggestion?
Yes,
Okay, that was my question.
Days after year 1, 15 days after.
well, how about just changing the 20 days, change that to 15 years?
Mm-hmm. I don't see anything wrong with the way that it is here, but if the consensus is that it should be 15, then I not necessarily agree with that. I think,
Any thoughts?
I mean, my opinion is that far out. The more important ones, if you're worried about attracting workers, is when you're gonna get the vacation time in the first, year or two. So this one, you get 10 days after the first 3 years, or this other little red box, after your first year, you're gonna get those 10 days.
mhm,
I think that's a more attractive, that worrying about the 20 days after 15, 20 years. and most people, I think, coming into these positions, they're gonna be looking at that first 5 to 10 years. I think most people, I wouldn't worry about the 20-year thing. And in my mind, that this little red box one, it gives more vacation days earlier. And that's much more attractive. I would think, I mean,
I tend to agree.
most people, a lot of people that are gonna come in, unless you're coming in for a job like Marjorie's, I just can't see having a, you know, a 20, 30-year look at, they're gonna be looking in the next 5 years. I mean, that's just the reality of it.
Yeah, but then you've gotta work 10 years to get the 15 days. I mean, you get the 10 days after 1 year, but then it's like, oh God, I gotta be here another 10 years before I get any more vacation time.
Do we allow vacation to roll over year over year?
Says 5
1
days.
week,
You can roll over 1 week.
1 week, yeah.
So I mean, that's
I think it's pretty generous.
I think the red box thing is extremely generous. Work a year and automatically get over a week.
Yeah, I think that's generous.
That's why I say
also.
that's super generous. And then so waiting that other time period, I think that's you give up. You know, this other one, I'd have to wait, I'd get 5 days and I'd have to wait 3 years to get the 10 days. Where this one, I only have to work a year and I'm gonna get 10 days and then I can roll over, what do you say, 1 week of it?
Mhm.
It's pretty good. Yep.
Is there any consensus about the wording in the box?
The little red box.
Yeah. Or do you want to,
I personally, I'm just speaking for myself. To me, that looks like a more attractive, and I don't think that's gonna change any. I think that looks good myself, but this is my opinion.
I mean, when I was with AAA, it was 2 weeks to start. And then another week after 5 years. And at 10 years is when I got the 4th week. But I was at a manager level. So like I said, that 10 days after 1 year of service is a very generous approach. And you're gonna beat anybody there is on the island when it comes to something like that, vacation with a program like that. So. Good recruitment piece. And most people, 10 days a year is more than adequate. And then I assume we have sick time as well.
Yes.
Mhm,
6 days. Of sick time.
Sick
that's
leave
the next section.
Yeah.
Based upon hours worked, accumulate based on hours worked.
And cause I assume you could time up those 10 days, so you do Monday through Friday. Take a weekend, Monday through Friday, and take a weekend, if you so wanted.
I wasn't focusing, I'm sorry, on what you
I
said.
assume that the employee would be able to take, Monday through Friday.
Yes.
Take a weekend and then another
Plus
Monday.
work days, yeah.
Yeah, Monday through Friday. So I mean, 10 days is a lot.
Yeah. And how many paid holidays a year?
12.
That's on a previous page.
Well, cause the sick leave is, you can't just add that onto you.
No, I'm not adding the sick leave on it. I'm
No,
just saying,
That's, has to be used for doctor appointments and such. Um.
Well, do you need more time to study this? I guess what we were hoping is that people would kind of study up on it and ask the questions.
Well, that was,
the only-
I had that page turned down because I did have a question about that.
Okay,
And I mean, we're talking about it now, so that's,
Okay.
I think it would be nice for us, although you guys haven't looked through it, huh?
I mean, I looked through, I just didn't pick up on. I didn't pick up on that when I looked at it. It didn't,
A lot of it is just housekeeping,
Yeah,
you know, correcting things.
I read the
Um,
entire thing word for word this morning on the ferry.
What about the increase in the per diem for travel expense? It's been $40 for as long as I can remember. We're increasing that to
60
60.
makes
I
sense.
think that's totally,
Okay,
I
so
mean,
that's fine.
Yeah.
you could up that and wouldn't,
It's probably still cheap.
yeah, I was gonna say, you could up that and I
Uh,
wouldn't have balked at it.
Breakfast is probably 15 now by itself.
Easy.
So I guess I guess the biggest change is that the,
Right,
most of it is making things clear, a little housekeeping to just correct grammar and misspellings. So the,
Good for me.
Yeah,
so
like-
do you have any consensus around the vacation proposal or?
I, I guess I could see this, suggestion in the red box.
I mean, when I read through it the first time was kind of whatever with it either way, but if there was concern about it, the red box gives a new employee more days quicker.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fine with the way it's written here and the red line. But if everybody else is not, then I would not, the box, the suggestion is, if that's how the rest of you feel. I think, I mean, 12 years or 15, but, I think 12 is fine, but whatever you guys think.
I
I
mean,
mean,
I
we
just
can-
think giving, if we want to think about attracting people, giving that 10 days up a little earlier is gonna attract people much more than the 20-day
No,
down the
people-
road.
So what do you want to do? What do you guys want to do? You want to just go with the
I mean, these are,
suggestion?
can
Yes,
be a mix of the two. I mean,
I know, that's what I'm saying. We can we can break it up. We can do the 5 days for first, 10 days after one.
Well, only do the 15 days halfway through, like 8,
Mhm.
and then 20 and 15. Just a suggestion.
Yeah. So take the 15 and make it 8.
Mhm.
Instead of 10 years, make it
Yeah.
8 years.
I mean, having never worked for a company, always been self-employed, I don't have any experience with.
It sucks waiting
10 years is a
forever.
long time to
Yeah.
wait to get a bump in
Yeah,
vacation.
it
Yeah.
sucks waiting all that
Yeah.
time.
Okay,
And I'm just thinking of it like
Recruitment.
recruitment through the eyes of like a young person. Cause it wasn't that long ago, I was applying for jobs and I was focused on them first 5 years, not so much the 20 year.
Right,
Yeah,
and the only other thing I will say is I read through this again today too, just to make sure, and on the last page, the acknowledgement of receipt of the personnel policy, I am not gonna take out the "and read," because that's the whole point. That you want them to attest to the fact that they have read the
exactly.
personnel, not that
Correct,
they
yeah.
just, so I'm not gonna, that's not an amendment that,
You're gonna leave that in.
yeah.
I had a question. One second. About. The, on page 5, I had a question about the, because we don't sign the warrant usually a lot of times until Wednesday.
What are we doing?
On payday and
What is,
It says employees can arrange for direct, blah, blah, blah.
The paychecks are generally available.
Paychecks are generally available on Tuesday of the following week. Well, Debbie doesn't even get it done until late Tuesday, and a lot of times we don't sign it
we
until,
do.
till
We do.
Wednesday.
oh, the payroll is done on Friday.
Um, yeah, right, but in the
Okay.
suggestion here, would like to request 12 a.m. Saturday to 11:59 Friday. This would mean checks are available on Wednesday and timesheets would need to be submitted by 9 a.m. on Monday. I'm just thinking of the fact that we don't usually sign, the warrant isn't even signed until Wednesday most times. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So your
Just-
paycheck isn't available on Tuesday.
But if payroll comes from Bangor payroll, we don't have anything to do with it, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, I read this part here about the pay period. I'm sorry, I didn't even notice the language in the box.
Okay,
No, I don't think that, I mean, when we went with Bangor payroll, the fact was that, they couldn't take any more payrolls that ended on Friday. So we had to have a week ending something else.
Oh, I
that-
see.
So that we could, I don't know, it would be up to Bangor payroll if they could. I mean, when you think about it, they only have so much staff, and if
Right.
everybody ends their week on the Friday.
Right.
So, and this is, I'm talking about years ago now, when we went with them, my recollection is that they said, well, we'll have to have you. End your
Switch up
week on
your
a
week.
Thursday so that there's available staff to process your payroll. So it would have to be a question to Bangor payroll, to see if we stayed with them, for instance, if they could even do that change. So
Well,
I'm sorry, I didn't even
it
notice
doesn't
that in the
matter
box.
I mean, it doesn't matter to me. It's a question I had when I was reading.
Isn't
Doesn't,
at the checks that we're signing the warrant for the following Tuesday?
No.
and doesn't,
And we have a, policy that makes that, work. I don't know. I don't know. I can't even remember what the policy is.
doesn't Bangor payroll mail the payroll to the town office for people who don't have direct deposit?
Correct. Those are the only live
So-
checks.
Those checks are already signed and people just come up on Tuesday and pick them up, correct? We don't have to sign anything to disperse them, do we?
It's in this one, this
The
here.
warrant, the
The
check.
paychecks are?
Mhm.
Yeah, the payroll warrant. There's
Oh, the
two-
payroll, okay.
Maybe I'm not understanding your question.
I just-
Right here.
I just thought, yes,
So when is that going to be paid out? What we just signed on tonight?
This is already paid out. People receive their checks today.
That goes for direct deposit,
no,
Yes.
but you haven't signed any checks yet.
I don't sign these checks.
Yeah,
It's
those
all direct
The
deposit.
checks that are there, you have to sign them.
but they're not
These-
payroll
Still payroll
checks.
checks, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, maybe I'm not understanding
So
the
does everybody
question.
have direct deposit?
Pretty much, there's a couple people on the fire department that don't have it. On fire or an ambulance that don't have it.
Or if you have a check in there, it's not gonna be ready on Tuesday. It'll be ready tomorrow after we've signed the warrant. Marjorie can't sign the checks
I
until
don't
we
sign
sign.
payroll checks.
I'm talking
Oh.
about those checks right there,
Okay.
those
Okay,
real-time checks.
okay,
They can't be signed until we sign the warrant, correct?
right.
All right, that's my point. I don't care. I just had a question about it.
Okay,
It
okay.
doesn't really matter.
Okay,
I just, I'm just questioning on Tuesday, so whatever,
Okay.
it's no big deal.
okay.
It was just a question. Okay. So, do we need to make a motion to amend this?
Yes, unless
Okay.
you'd like more time.
I'm all set. My questions have been answered on what I had. Unless everybody else wants to take time to read more. Okay, so we are in agreement on the vacation, correct?
Mhm.
So that'll be changed to 1 year, first year, 1 year, 8 year, 15 years, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I would make a motion that we accept the amended version of the Town of Isle Haven Personnel Policy.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, there.
Hmm.
And we will move on to 9 new business, airport lease and agreement.
So, I did send this off. I did send this off to our attorney for review, because I thought it would be prudent. So I'm not ready to, have you review and sign something for the airport.
Good
Fine.
idea.
We skipped over the parking tickets.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Millie's-
because Millie's not here.
Okay, okay.
She's sick.
Oh, I'm sorry, I said that at the beginning.
Okay, I guess I got just the public works. I missed the.
No, that's okay.
Yep, okay.
Yeah, she's ill. She's been sick for a few days, so that will come up on our next agenda. Ambulance, ambulance write-off.
So that's the paper that I gave you, when you first came in. There is, our, agency that does our ambulance billing and collections is recommending $20,000, $20,063.56 in write-offs. Some of them go back as far as 21, 22. And some of the people are simply deceased. We went through I think it was last month, and sent invoices to everybody that we felt like maybe we could still collect, and we did get a few.
I'm assuming these are mostly uninsured people.
It's a combination of things, yes, but yes.
What a write-off.
It would cost more to take them to court.
We used to set up a payment plan for people if they wanted to do that.
I guess I would need,
Or if they want to write off, they have to submit income and such. I mean,
Right, that's ringing some bells.
none of the people that owe the money have asked to be exempt from the bill because of their income,
no. No.
and so. Okay,
Except maybe the deceased ones.
I remember we
Yeah,
we have the
discussed a
minor,
write-off,
very
Yeah.
minor.
and
Yeah, we can
we
give
had to have
that.
proof of income and everything, I
break.
remember.
Well, do you want me to send that, I think there's an application or something. Do you want me to send that to all of these people?
You can't get blood out of a turnip.
well, certainly if they. I mean, it's been quite a while for most of them, so,
I mean, some of the smaller amounts are after insurance amounts.
right.
There are some biggies there.
But I mean, some of them are so old that I guess just to write it off and try to think of a different way to try to collect some of them.
With some of this, before we changed service, we had the,
No, we
Right.
wrote off all of the,
I thought we did. a couple
yeah,
years
that
ago.
was a very large, I think it was over $100,000.
Yeah.
That was 2 or 3 years ago.
Hmm.
So we've already done one kind of major
Yeah,
write-off
yeah.
on that.
Yeah.
I'd be inclined to send notes, say, just a reminder, you realize you have this bill.
Oh, we did that. Oh,
That was done.
just like 3 or 4 weeks ago?
And you said you got some,
Yes.
Some response.
Lion share, this looks like one trip, one person.
Well,
Well,
we
12,600.
we purposely left the names off
Of
because we
course.
just didn't feel it was,
Yeah,
you know, appropriate.
Oh,
Some,
yeah, no.
yeah, there's 2 or 3 runs for some, you know, for one person, I think is what you're saying.
Yeah. and it's not really that old, it's not even a year old yet.
For the 24s, for the 10/29,
6/20/24,
or so, in the beginning, yeah.
12,600.
Well, that's the total for
Oh,
that
that's the total.
previous
Total
for the
balance.
year.
Gotcha,
Yeah,
my bad. Reading it incorrectly.
yep. Well, I guess, we have no choice. Gotta write it off.
You know, we published.
Can't
the
take it
back
to small
taxes.
claims.
It'll cost more to
I don't
take
think
We
it.
published back taxes.
I don't think HIPAA will
It's
let you.
HIPAA.
HIPAA.
No,
HIPAA?
you can't.
yeah.
Yes,
Even the ambulance?
Yes.
Medical, anything
medical.
medical is HIPAA related.
definitely HIPAA.
Can we send a thing about the payment plan or?
Well, going
You want
forward,
me to?
I mean, I suppose if you want to do that, or do you want to going forward to do it, or do you want to do it now, Marjorie?
Do,
A payment plan, ask some of the,
I mean, just try to get some,
well, the policy that I think you're talking about, I'd have to reprise it, but it's a write-off request
Mhm.
because of poverty.
right,
That's my recollection, but I'd have to look at it.
Mhm.
It's one of the ambulance write-off policies.
Yes, we
Yeah.
did, I remember doing
Yeah.
one.
Yeah,
Where there's a special need, I wouldn't have a problem, but I think it should be, as Pam indicated, there should be some more explanation why they're not paying it.
well, I don't know some of the people. I mean,
certainly the ones that are $100 or less. The higher, amount.
yeah, the higher ones, I was just thinking if there was a way we could just get something from them.
I mean, 20 grand is,
I mean, that's a fair amount of money, especially if we just ate, this is before I got on the board, so if we just ate 100 grand,
Yeah, because we switched ambulance companies.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
That's why.
yeah.
They were billing.
Yeah.
they were
They were
terrible.
too.
But I mean, so, we just had a huge eat on that, huge eat on this, we're buying a new ambulance.
what about, for now, just writing off the total of the 21, 22, and 22, let's see.
Yeah, maybe
The
those
$130 and the 3,438.45, and then I can go back and work with our agency and Darlene and see if there's anything else that we can do.
I think we need to make sure that we don't establish a precedent that will bite us.
So you're suggesting, 3,438.45
And the one
to,
thirty.
To write that off in the
Plus the
130? Just
Yeah.
to, okay, and then,
I'm just suggesting just to kind of move this along a little bit.
yeah, no, that's good.
3568.
And then the one, I mean. $70.78, seriously? You can't,
About $3.
That's what I have a
There were two.
I have a hard time letting.
There were two
I know.
$3 on here. I mean, obviously, we need to cross off the 204.65 because the person is no longer with us.
Yeah, deceased, write them off.
That's beyond the
They-
34.38.
They paid their,
There
Okay.
may be some genuine.
All right, Marjorie, why don't we-
Cases there that we need to
I
address.
think that we're in agreement that we want Marjorie to send letters to the people from 7/3/23 up to 10/29/24.
Yeah, rattle that cage
Yep.
again.
Unless they're deceased.
And but put something
Right, there are
in,
two
like
on
you
there that
suggested,
won't
Pam, that
deceased.
there's a legitimate hardship case,
I
you
was
know,
gonna
let us
write
know
that,
and we can
these
address.
off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Right.
something in the
Right,
bill,
yeah.
you know, that, you know, about,
If you need help,
yeah.
Well, I know we've, in the past, since I've been here, we've had people come to executive session and ask
To be
for
written off.
help,
Hardship.
know,
I think there's nothing wrong with that.
I
right, to
don't either.
either, yeah, to discuss and figure out
Yep.
what to do, and I think that's good. But to just have people blow it off is
Yeah.
not good,
I agree, Pam.
okay,
And I'm not blaming this on anyone, but maybe if we, you know, this is going back years. Maybe we should be reviewing this more often. I don't,
on a 6-month basis, you mean?
Thinking.
I think so. I mean, because doesn't make it right for them, but if we haven't been pushy on collecting and you've let it go for, you know, 3 years, kind of sets a precedent. Where if we,
I assume the ambulance company's been billing regularly.
I'm not exactly sure. I mean, obviously they bill and they get the insurance
Right.
and, you know, and then they bill again, but, I don't know exactly how many times.
Okay.
And I don't know how insurance is paying off these ambulance bills or helping, you know, some of them. I know when, with that, well, that was with the other. And, people that, I can't remember the name, that
The
dealt
other
with
ambulance company.
yeah, the other ambulance company. They were so bad that they didn't bill the insurance company for things that my mother had, you know, emergency runs. So we were getting these huge bills. It's like, what, you know, they should have.
Right.
And she just ignored them. The woman that owned the company, she was terrible. And, you know, it took months to get it figured out. So I don't know if any of these things here not have anything to do with that other company, but you know, sometimes insurance takes a long time
Oh,
to
Yes.
get figured out with life flight and
mhm.
ambulance things and such, so.
And just insurance in general.
So I think we need to make sure we know the circumstances, but.
Yep.
Yeah, 6 months, every 6 months, I think would be,
Then at least we're not talking, if we review every 6 months, we're not talking about 20 grand to a whack.
I know. Try to nip it in the bud before it gets to that
Yeah,
high amount.
so are we in a consensus to eat that,
I need a motion.
yeah,
Yeah.
30, be about 35, a little over 3,500.
Well, with the deceased one from, that's 204.65, I'm gonna be 37.73.10 if my math's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would make a motion that. Okay, so I make the motion on you, Marjorie, you writing off the 3,438.45 and 130. Is that what the motion should be on that?
And the 204.65 for the deceased,
Well, I'm assuming the total. The total includes those?
there,
It does.
there is, me and Tom are talking about, there's a deceased one
It's down.
that's down with, you know.
Right.
After your.
I wonder though, do I have to make two separate motions? Or I
No,
can do
just-
it all in one?
Yeah, just make a motion for one.
That we have Marjorie write off 3,568.45.
3,438.45.
Well, I added the one.
Oh, I apologize. I apologize.
Plus 204.65.
Yes, so three.
And then if you want it all in one motion.
You could say all deceased plus everything prior to 7/3, then you got it covered. You don't need a number.
Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion, please?
Make a motion,
Lad, you
to-
make a motion,
Yep.
please.
I'm making a motion to forgive, the ambulance balances in the total of 3,773.10. That's the motion.
Okay, second. All in favor? Okay. And then going forward, we'll have a, update every 6 months.
Yeah. And send some more pester letters out.
Alrighty. 9C, appropriation for Mary Talbot Trust of Public Safety Building Repairs and Maintenance.
I wondered if you would consider taking 20,000, up to 20,000 to continue the painting and repairs at the public safety building. We did put some money into the reserve, but of course that won't be available until July 1st. And I have, there's people available right now that could continue that work. We did just the front. I don't know if you've all noticed how nice that looks. And I'd just like to continue on with that work,
If you got,
or we can just wait until July.
If you've
Once
got
you
something
did
to
it,
do it now,
yeah,
Are they gonna keep working then?
No, they've stopped now.
but will they if we,
Yes.
okay,
But that would mean, once the new budget come, we could replace what we took out of the Talbot fund.
So the town meeting vote would say that we're putting $20,000 into the Public Works Reserve. I have to go with I have to be specific to what the town meeting vote was, so I'd have to think about that for a minute.
But I mean, even once the town meeting was put that in a reserve, we could theoretically make a motion as a select board to move that from that reserve to Mary Talbot.
don't think
That
we
would be,
can.
that would be, going. That would be reversing a town meeting vote.
Yeah, I think you can do that.
I'm sorry, I got lost on that one. I was not paying attention to what Dawn said. I'm sorry.
So the question was, after the vote at town meeting, can we take the money that we raised for the public safety building and put that back into Mary Talbot? I don't think we can, because I have to do what is voted at, so the ultimate vote in our town is the legislative body.
Right,
And I have to do what they say. So the Mary Talbot funds are available for community improvements to buildings. It's a trust fund, and her wishes are in her will. So, and for a reserve fund or something like that, the selectmen can use that money for either, what the,
do you have a number of how much additional we'd be taking out of that?
how much additional?
How, like.
I'm asking for 20,000, up to $20,000
okay.
out of the Mary Talbot. There's about 64,000 in the Mary Talbot Trust.
Well, I think that, I would make a motion that we take appropriate the money from Mary Talbot Trust for public safety building repairs and maintenance in the amount of did I say 20,000?
Second.
All in favor? Yes, they need to keep
That was just
working.
four,
Dawn, did you not
four
vote?
to,
I don't think we should.
Well, you need to say yes or no.
No,
Okay. Thank
four,
you.
so it'd be like four, one.
48,
zero.
1 nay. No, all right. Is this? Oh, that has. Um. 10, report of town manager.
Um. I wanted to just update you on that J.O. Brown invoice.
Mm.
Lad had
Oh,
suggest,
That's what I was gonna ask about that, so.
Lad had suggested that I talk to Adam. And I did talk to him and he was very nice and he felt like given our agreement, the verbal agreement that I had with Foy to only, he said to only pay the $3,000. We did pay the additional money that was charged to us for installing the float. But on this invoice, we just paid the 3,000.
Mhm.
And thank you, Lad, for the tip on, who I should speak to.
Mhm.
And I did at the urging of the John Emerson, he's the Ferry Advisory Board member for North Haven. He asked if I would give testimony on on LD 1231. It was about keeping the boats on the island sides overnight. And so I did send in testimony that was very similar to things that we've discussed as a board on that one LD, on the one bill that was going through. There's several bills. I don't know. I sent you that white paper that
Yeah.
Bruce, what's his name? Bruce Van Note
No.
wrote. I read through it a couple of times today, and I think one of the things that I plan to do is respond to his the comments about offering the emergency boat to the islands, and we did not respond. And I think one of the reasons that, I mean, I can't speak for the other islands, but if you remember the proposal that came from Maine EMS, that
Mhm.
Rick Petrie, and we went through quite a process with that. And at the end of the day, the board decided not to move forward with that. So I think in my mind, we had pretty much settled that issue, or I don't know, I don't know if it's that one proposal anyway. And then when Maine DOT had their own proposal separate from Rick Petrie's proposal, to buy the islands an emergency boat. I think we had kind of already, it seemed like we had kind of already made up our minds that we weren't going to go that route. So I didn't actually, or we didn't respond to that as a board, as a town manager, as a community. So that's one thing that I think I'm just going to write a letter and respond to that question, because in the white paper, it was like, well, yeah, I offered this, but nobody even responded, So maybe it deserves at least a response to say, oh, well, this is the way we feel about it. This is what happened, just to give a response, which I think is fair,
Yes.
to say where we're at and, why we didn't say, oh, yay, let's.
Yeah, we've discussed this several times and it's all
I
beat it
come
to
up
death.
non-feasible.
I thought that all the islands made it very clear that it wasn't gonna work. So I don't know that the response
Well,
never reached his office.
Well, I
but-
think it was confusing though, Pam, because on the one hand, there was that proposal from Maine EMS or
Right.
whatever that organization was, which was different from DOT. Now, when we were going through that, there was some conversation, to be fair, that DOT wanted to jump in and be involved and contribute some cash to that program.
Mhm.
Right.
So there was that proposal, which is not Maine DOT proposal, but then, fast forward, Maine DOT said, oh, we'd like to offer the islands their own emergency boat, and in return, we don't want to make the nighttime emergency runs, which is a totally separate proposal that they were making, and it seemed like Commissioner Van Note was saying, well, I offered them this boat and I didn't get any response. So I just feel like I'm gonna
Oh.
respond and
Yeah,
Was it one boat or one boat for each
It
island?
was
each island,
each island.
Each island had a boat.
that's the proposal.
Yeah.
which,
And I remember
would be
us
cheap.
saying, no, we've already discussed this with the other thing and no.
Oh, it's
we don't
still
want
up to us, each individual island to staff it and maintain it and.
Housing and
housing
insurance and
Insurance.
I
and
know that-
Coast Guard,
maintenance.
all that stuff. So,
Right,
I
it's a
felt it was
lot.
discussed in the Zoom meetings too that we had with the
Well-
other islands.
He obviously feels like he's not gotten a response.
Well, give them the
So-
response,
Yeah.
Marge.
If it's all right, I mean, I just
Yes,
gonna,
I think that's fair.
hmm?
I think
yes,
it's fair.
definitely.
Anyway, it's all very interesting, and all of these bills are making their way through the legislature. I agree with some of them and disagree with others, but it's an interesting process.
Interesting 36-page white paper to tell us that I really don't wanna do this job.
Boo-hoo, poor
This is
me.
really
I-
what it boils down
I
to.
felt it was very, there was no blame at all on from his part.
Right.
Like, they haven't done anything.
It's-
Everything is of the island's fault. The people don't want to talk with him, and
Spending too much money on too few people.
it just was kind of rude, I thought.
It's very demeaning.
And like,
It was designed to send a message to the legislature and to paint things a certain way.
yeah,
In order to drive an agenda a certain way.
he certainly didn't take into account all the conversations that we've had where we tried to discuss these different issues.
One of the things that I did, I responded to Bill Pulver, who had sent us those two documents, that I don't think we talk about enough, related to Vinalhaven and our economy and what we offer to the state. Several times in that white paper, it was mentioned that Maine DOT is spending all these millions of dollars on 2,700 people.
It's not.
Much money.
I know, but no one ever talks about the fact that in 2024, we had $36 million in landings, just lobsters.
Me and you had talked about that. When you add Swans Island, I believe the co-op there, I think we talked to Nick to figure out, the co-op there sends it over. That's a huge, we were the second largest port in the state. And
Second
Swans,
only to
Let alone the tourist
Stonington.
Traffic that comes through
in
here.
Stonington, that's a huge, if you add Swans Island and Vinalhaven, what's going across those boats, value of lobster, it's big.
Yes.
Exactly. That's what I pointed out in an email today, that it's not pointed out frequently enough. People are very quick to point out that we have a lot of seasonal people that have money and they just come here in the summertime to their second homes. And I just don't think that's fair. I think that Vinalhaven and the other islands offer a lot to the Maine economy,
Mhm.
Definitely.
and those are hard and fast figures, $36 million into the economy. And the ferry service is the way that we get those lobsters to the
As a
mainland.
general rule.
And
yes.
I think that has to be mentioned more often, because instead of this mantra of, that they spend all of this money on 2,700 people.
Yes,
It's not a fair perspective
that's a
in
really
my
good
mind.
point.
It's things used to drive an agenda. That,
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
that number of people is being used to drive an agenda.
I think that's a really valid point.
anyway, so I did make that one point to him today in an email but I am gonna respond, to that question of you know, they offered to buy the islands, this emergency boat, and no one responded. So I feel like I'm gonna respond to that.
Okay.
That's all I had. I was long-winded today.
Thank you. Number 11, report of
I
members.
apologize. I did give you a budget report.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Report of members, Tom?
Actually, yes. Just for you guys to review. This is a suggestion to change the sewer ordinance in the way that billing is done. You know, first part of section 11 of the actual ordinance now. The back side of the second page is a proposal. And the back sheet is my own personal bill. Broken down the way it was being charged now and the way I'm proposing. Nothing we have to discuss tonight. We can put it on agenda for next meeting if you want. We've been at this long enough tonight.
Actually, it has to go to the sewer commissioners. I mean, that would be the best place to present this,
Well, it's a town ordinance, correct?
Mhm.
but the sewer commissioners recommend to the board what they,
What the ordinance is supposed to be?
well, with the sewer commissioners. So we would discuss it at a meeting and then whatever if there's
It's also a town meeting vote.
That would be it'd be a special town meeting to change the ordinance,
yeah.
of course.
but we would recommend, I mean, Marjorie and I have discussed changing the ordinance more than once.
It's a little cumbersome.
I can also review your account if you'd like.
No, it's not about my account. It's about my account's fine, the way the ordinance is written now. The way the ordinance is written, if you have 1/4 that's high, it's punitive,
Mhm.
and you have to review it on a yearly basis.
Mhm.
My suggestion would eliminate choosing, either way, we can talk. If it has to go
Well,
back, it has to go before the trustees of the sewers, that,
Well, we
then
just,
we can talk.
yeah,
we'll
we
talk
just
about it.
had a meeting last week. Our next meeting is in July,
That's fine,
because we only meet quarterly.
Yeah. that's fine.
Okay.
You and I can talk about it, and I can show you what my thoughts are.
Yeah, and certainly put it on the agenda for that meeting.
Put it on the agenda for the next
July.
meeting.
For the July sewer meeting, if the commissioners wanna talk about it.
Okay.
Glad?
I was gonna ask how you made out with that bill. You already went over that, so I got nothing.
Don? Leslie? No. And I was just going to, ask you to remind the sheriff, Knox County Sheriff's Department that that's part of the contract, that they're supposed to report to us on a monthly basis.
What would you like to see in that report? I mean,
Well, just they would come in and talk and tell us what was going on.
oh, you mean in person?
Well, I mean, isn't that in the contract that they're supposed to?
Oh.
Yeah, you're right, we did, that was part of the agreement that we would have a meeting periodically, they would come in, just give us an update.
Right.
Okay.
I think just a reminder.
I just had a question about that, and that is it, and I am done, with my report. And we will go to number 12.
Glad you're up.
And the next meeting is May 20th.
May 20th, yeah. I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. Well, maybe,
All right, so,